Toy Spot. We were having a look at the NECA Toys Godzilla 1954. This would also be the Godzilla that I grew up with, watching Godzilla movies every Sunday. I think like clockwork, I was down by the TV probably around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were always playing Godzilla movies. So that was one staple that I always went to, always remember certainly as a kid, was watching Godzilla and of course all the monsters that he was fighting. It's recommended for ages 14 and up. It comes to us from the folks over at NECA Toys. No strangers to the Godzilla property. They've released a ton of really cool Godzilla figures, and I hope they continue to do that. On the back, there's no real read-up necessarily, although there's just a image of Godzilla there. To check out more from the folks over at NECA Toys, you can go to www.necaonline.com. With a little bit of a spin, Spot's going to take a break. I'm going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to get a better look at Godzilla from 1954. There's more heading away, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Now that he's out of packaging, let's get a better look at the 1954 Godzilla. And you know what? Truthfully, Spot actually did watch Godzilla from the later movies as well. Yeah, I still watched, like, to me, this defines Godzilla. This is basically how I remember. If I was to close my eyes right now, which I would kind of be over here talking because I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. But if I was to close my eyes, this is how I envision Godzilla from my childhood. Just kind of that roly-poly, kind of stocky. I feel like he should have a kids show where he sings along and everybody comes in and says, "Hey, Godzilla, let's sing a song." But yeah, he's a fun, cute, still guardian of the Earth. One thing I did, though, when I took him out of packaging, the tail. His tail right here actually pegs into place. There's a little ball joint on the end. It's the only bit of assembly, and it's assembly that always seems to be the case when you get Godzilla figures. They always have to add the tail as a separate piece because just by the nature of how big he would be in packaging, they would not want to make a clamshell just long enough to accommodate the tail. It's so much easier just to peg that into place when you get it out of packaging. The overall color scheme of Godzilla is probably what you would expect it to be. It's mostly just black and white. Even right down to his teeth and his tongue are all black and white, which makes sense because if it would be the 50s interpretation of Godzilla. I don't even know if I want to say the face is cute, but it almost has like a seal look to it. I always felt like the old Godzilla kind of looked like a big giant seal. Of course, with big scales on the back, which completely just defeats the purpose of calling him a seal, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. You can also see that his mouth opens and closes depending on how you want to have him displayed. One thing that NECA does not skimp on when it comes to their articulation on their Godzilla pieces is that they're super posable. One thing I just love the fact, though, is that his mouth does open and close. If you had given him like a fiery kind of something that you could have had coming out of his mouth, that would have been cool too. But, it's okay that they did not include that. The figure still is super, super cool. The thing too is, with most toy companies wanting to reuse components to save costs on retooling, no doubt a lot of Godzilla here was carried over probably from maybe the Space Godzilla release or other Godzilla releases where they can actually, it's probably just a retooling of the head, and a lot of this is shared from previous releases. But again, that's okay. That's okay with me. When it comes to Godzilla's posability, again, this is where it gets really astonishing. We've already seen that he has the open and closed mouth, but he does also have a ball joint in the head section, which connects itself to the neck area. The neck area has its own ball joint. So you got posability there, posability in the neck. Then you've got posability as you have ball joints in the arms. You then have ball joints in the actual forearm, right at the bend of the elbow, which allows the forearms to rotate. He has a hinge in the hand, but then he's also got a hinge. I think he's got a hinge. Yes, he does. A hinge in the finger sections as well. So while they don't move independently, the three fingers do allow them to be bent as well. So that's really cool that they would incorporate that. When it gets to the torso also is on a ball joint, so you can have him looking back, maybe looking around for something to eat. And there's a lot of posability going on there as well, as you can see here. The legs on their own ball joints, a little more limited because they are so big and chunky. Once you start hitting against the lower torso of Godzilla, it kind of prevents a little bit of movement in the leg area, but you get to about there when it comes to posing him. He has a ball joint in the lower leg, a ball joint in the foot, and then he's got multiple. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 independent ball joints. So you can do a lot when it comes to his tail. If you really look at it, like when it comes to NECA propertied figures, Godzilla might have the most posability of all the figures that they release. If you really start counting things like the tail, you know, the individual sections of the legs, the arms, and stuff like that, there's a lot they put into a figure such as this, and absolutely love them for it. This is, I guess, what Spot's 4th or 5th Godzilla that I picked up from NECA. You include, of course, the remake as well. Yeah, I hope NECA continues to do these. And if they're able to, I hope we get some of the monsters going on there as well. Maybe Mechagodzilla? Anybody? Anybody? Today's Toy Spot, we were having a look at the NECA Toys Godzilla from 1954. Before I was born, but I still enjoyed loving watching those movies every Sunday afternoon. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Toy Spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.